Welcome to the June 10th Public Developer Meeting. I'll be your host, Matt Butcher. And today we have a really exciting schedule that I am just about to look at for the first time. First thing we do to kick off the meeting is to welcome anybody new to the meeting and give people a chance to introduce themselves if they have not done so before. Jeff, you've been here before, right? And I think you've introduced yourself in the past.
I'm new to this particular group. I've been hanging out over in CF Slack for a couple of days, particularly over on the Porter side. But yeah, my name's Jeff. I work with CloudFit Software. I'm an SRE over there. Mostly pretty new to the spec and trying to learn. We do a lot with air gap environments. And so trying to figure out, I'm currently actually uploading a thick bundle. So if I disconnect, it's probably because of that. About 700 some odd megs worth. So we'll see how that works on my slow Virginian internet connection. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy just to kind of be a fly on the wall and kind of listen into what some of the latest developments are, and hopefully bring it back to my team over in our ongoing stand-up.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the meeting, and nothing like trial by fire when it comes to uploading things and video streaming at the same time. So
yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, so the format of this meeting, we tend to just walk through the pre-setup agenda. The first item on the agenda today is walk through the giant claims PR of Doom, which is number 212 on the CNAB-GO repository. Yep, Radu's already mentioned it there. I am assuming that either Radu or Carolyn is the person who dropped this.
It was Carolyn.
It was Carolyn? Okay. Who may be joining. Actually, let's table this one because she may be joining just a little bit late. So we can table this one and move on and hopefully circle back. And we can go straight to CNAB Security, which Trishank and Radu have been spearheading for a while now. So we've got two sub-items under there. We need to get the final review of number 370, which is a non-normative section. And what was this second one? We need to remind ourselves of the process of calling a vote. But do you, either Trishank or Radu, you want to?
Yeah, sure. So the thinking is that, so Radu and I got together early last week, not this week. And we thought that working on this, it doesn't seem like we've missed anything big, particularly since we've been playing with the software supply chains too. Like we've got the tough part, right? The first layer of security, we think. There's been no major issues discussing that with the community so far. And we've also been playing with real life example of a software supply chain, plain total supply chains, and everything seems to work unless we, but again, we don't think that we've missed the most common use cases. So we think that it's time to call for a vote.
That would be excellent. So Vaughn will remind us here in a second, but I believe that the process of calling the vote entails creating a pull request that merges in the official version change, where you remove the where you change it to the official, whatever the documentation says the official final wording is. So I think it's CNAB Security Specification 1.0. And then Vaughn, you want to walk us through the rest of that process? Because I know you've worked on.
Sure. Yeah. Apologies if my internet's spotty out here. But I'm going to paste a link into the chat, which is on that 901 process doc and specifically the Git release flow. So that section kind of starts with assuming the working group approves of the official release, especially for the security major release, we would cut a branch, kind of CNAB Security, is it 1.0 GA, and then and I think the idea of a Git branch for that is if we need to merge errata fixes back into that major release. And then we can also, if the security spec has JSON schema that needs to be consumed by implementations, we can cut a Git tag off of that branch, and that will publish JSON schema. We have CI set up. So basically, once approved, it's creation of the Git branch and git tag.
Okay, cool.
And-
How do we, so basically the first thing we have to do is send a PR calling for a vote, right?
Yeah, and that PR would basically just be those changes to mark it as the final release. And then I believe it's a super majority vote in order for a specification to pass. So that means 2/3 of us at least have to vote yes on it for it to pass. And then again, just as a reminder, so once the working group passes it, then it goes to Chris Crone and I to officially stamp the magical rubber seal of approval on it, which sounds highly sophisticated, and of course like a dedicated process that will involve countless sleepless nights. But actually, we will just re-review everything and make sure that it fits the formatting guides and everything, and then mark that. And at that point, that's when we cut the tag marking it, right, Vaughn? Once Chris and I approve it, the tag is created that marks that as the official commit that blesses that. So it's the super majority vote is the one that counts, and then Chris and I do a quick pass to make sure it matches up and aligns with the rest of the specifications, and then we cut it and are done.
So it's PR gets merged and then we tag, and the tag is us saying it's okay, or is it, I think.
Yep. Yeah. So the branch effectively, once the branch gets pushed off of the PR into the branch that Vaughn was describing, that means that signals, that's the signal that the working group has approved of it and it has passed its vote. And then the tag is the signal that we approved the formatting and that it fit in with the rest of the specifications. And then we're done. Anything else on that one before we go to 370?
No, the only other thing I wanted to add is we'll call for the actual process for the vote later this week after we merge 370. And after that, we'll ping in the Slack channel, in the CNAB channel, and I'll probably also ping individual people just to give them a nudge to vote on the actual PR.
The list of maintainers is probably a good place to just ping people so that they make sure we get them.
All right, 370 is the non-normative section on air gap, right?
Yep.
Okay, anything we need to cover on that one?
I don't think so. At most, I'd like people to have a look as soon as possible so we can have another pass and then create the actual pull request.
Yeah, we think we gave people two decent options that's workable with today's Notary V1. Notary V2, I think, is going to happen within this year, right? So that's the hope. So we can do much cooler things. But the basic option is this. One is when you copy from a public registry to yours, you can say, okay, I'm going to validate the signature from the public registry, right? And then now that I know it's good, I'm going to push it to my own private air gap registry. Great. Or the other option is, since it's not trivial to copy keys, and you don't want to do it for many reasons, just copy signatures, you want to re-sign them. So after you validate them, you re-sign them with your own keys and also push both your own signed version, your own signatures and bundles to your private air gap. That's it, really.
Oh, the other question I had around non-normative sections is how easy can we add stuff to those sections later, and whether or not we need to actually cut another release after we've added something? As in, can we improve 800 for everything, both for registries and security and implementations, without worrying about the actual process of releasing? Or it's a bit unclear how we handle 8 to 100 sections.
So in the past, up to this, oh, go ahead, Chris, you want to take?
No, I was just going to say, I don't think we should cut a release. I think we should probably specify in the spec something along the lines of how many maintainers are required to validate a non-normative section, but we should consider it separate. And then maybe we should talk about a path to promotion of a non-normative section to a formal part of the spec. That would be my straw man.
That's a much more concise way of saying exactly what I was going to say.
So for example, one
in the past. So if we want to talk about making them formalized, we can do that. But in the past, they've been.
So one section one section that I'm a bit unclear about is there's one document in the CNAB Security spec that talks about known implementations. And we expect that document to evolve in the future, as well as list of registries that are known to support CNAB. And I wouldn't like to have to update the spec just to add a new service that supports pushing CNAB bundles. It doesn't really make sense to have that. So whether moving that to an 800 section and then updating that freely, or just specifying that 304 or whatever the number is not normative.
Yeah, I would definitely move that to a non-normative section, because even if there's a to the non-normative section, because even if there's a chunk of the spec that's non-normative, the spec process requires us to release errata releases or spec change releases anytime that entire chunk of text is modified. So if you want to like give a pointer to for a list of known implementations, see section 805 or whatever.
Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, Vaughn put in a great like process for us to do releases, but we definitely don't want to be using it every week just for every single thing we find. Like it is still quite heavyweight. So yeah, as much as we can get out of the spec itself is good.
All right, moving on. The next item, we'll transition over to CNAB Registry specification. So we've got just to kind of set up things right now, Jeff, we're working our way through three particular specifications: claims, security, and registry. And the registry is the third one on this list here. Let's see, number 362 has already gone through a round of feedback and everything. Just needs some re-reviews on it. Anything you want to add to that? Is that Chris or Radu?
I think either. Chris, Sylvan, and I worked on a HackMD document a couple of months ago where we try to flesh out an early version of the spec, and that PR is taking a big part of that and making a draft pull request so that people can see it. And after the first round of reviews, we've talked about merging it and then opening up individual issues just to tackle other things in the spec. So both Chris and Trushank had a set of reviews that I addressed and rebased. So if any spec maintainer has some free time, it'd be awesome if they could review it so we can merge it and allow people to open up individual smaller changes to the spec.
One question I have about this is related to some of the air gap stuff that's going on elsewhere. Does that mean we should start thinking about how we do air gapped image storage, or are we handling that completely separately? Because that's one of the sections we didn't really touch, because at least at Docker we didn't get to that yet. So.
Trying to take notes and answer questions at the same time. Sorry about that. I'm trying to think about it specifically for the CNAB security spec. The air gap part. First of all, the signature itself doesn't really change if the bundle is thick or thin. As long as the signature itself is always going to be the content digest of the object that you're trying to sign, whether it's the bundle JSON or the bundle archive with everything inside. So from a signature perspective, that doesn't change. That being said, I think we do need to add a section in the registry spec about what should happen when tooling tries to make an archive out of a bundle. I think the OCI layout should be definitely part of the spec. As in,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, just because I mean, we didn't try to do rocket science there. We basically said the OCI already has like a way of writing images to disk. So if we stick to that, everything should just work. We didn't actually test that though. So I was just, in part, I was also curious if you'd actually gone down that road yet or not yet. But
I haven't. That being said, I would also want to ask other people's opinion, mostly people who've worked more on the air-gapped part of tooling, mainly Carolyn.
I guess Jeff will have an opinion too. From his intro, I'm picking up that this is stuff that interests him.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's I'm starting to read through it right now, and I guess for us, the main concern tends to arise when we take a bundle and we're pushing it out into a registry inside the air gap, and looking through just sort of what's the least intrusive way that we can represent that, because at least for us and for CloudFit, what we're dealing with is low bandwidth. We're doing a lot of like edge kind of work. So for us, I can see the benefits. Yeah, and I mean everything that has been written down, it looked really good, at least in the cursory glance I'm able to give it, while also listening to all the conversation going on.
Yeah, and definitely feel free to give feedback either in Slack or even better on that particular issue. Even if it's just tested this particular method and it seems to work well enough, or can't even figure out how I'm supposed to do this kind of one. Anything like that would be good to help us clarify.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
It's great to have someone vetting part of it, because we all feel like we've got this deep insider view and don't know if we're talking to ourselves any more than anyone else at some point. So, okay, anything left on that? I'm gonna
no, other than if you're a spec maintainer, please review that so we could hopefully merge it and pick up individual changes.
As far as prioritization goes, we're gonna try and prioritize security reviews first, and then do we want to do registry or claims? I probably, yeah.
I mean, I'm not too stressed about the registry stuff. We've got the code already in place, so it's less, you know, it's not blocking implementation yet. So I think we can focus on the claims and the security stuff, because that has and also the claim stuff specifically is an existing thing that's changing. So if we can close that out quicker, it's probably better.
And yeah, to return to that one, because Carolyn did eventually ping us and let us know that she's going to be running late into the office this morning. The claims thing, Jacob and Carolyn and Vaughn have been iterating on this particular PR for a long time. I think it is ready to go. It just needs one more set of eyes that can vote go, no go on it, and LGTM it. You know, we're always reluctant to be the last ones to approve our own PRs. You don't want it to look like Microsoft basically forced our way through this PR. So it would be nice if somebody else wanted to do it, but I know since Jacob has done a really thorough job of going through this and vetting everything from Datadog's perspective, I'm not terribly worried about that.
Is that the implementation or the spec? What are you referring to?
I think it's the spec one. Oh no, it's in CNAB-GO. Sorry, I was thinking it was the spec one, which did get merged.
I was going to say, I thought did I miss something? Yeah. Okay, right, yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I guess a plain code review is definitely not, I don't have to worry as much about politics and visibility. This is what's happened to us. We become managers, and this is the kind of stuff we start worrying about.
You would be surprised about not having to worry about code reviews.
Oh.
Well, yeah, I coded some stuff, and my team made me regret it to some extent. I got nitpicked to death.
Oh, I used to be good at this. Anyway, to keep us relatively close to on track, since I'm the #1 person to get us off track, why do you guys let me moderate this meeting anyway? So the last one was the community. The pure entertainment value of watching someone dig a hole and then try and climb back out of it. Community bundle for Harbor v2 with registry and notary is the last one. I did not I don't know who added that one. Anybody want to?
I added it. So last meeting, we brought up the fact that Harbor v2 now supports both CNAB and Notary out of the box. So I thought it would be a good idea to have a bundle that installs and configures Harbor v2 properly with everything for security and registry. I was hoping Ralph would make this meeting. He mentioned that he was going to talk to the PM at Harbor so they could give us a hand in actually configuring Harbor, which is a slightly more difficult task than I anticipated. But given that he's not here, I don't think we have any updates on that. But ideally, in the end, the output of that particular item would be a installable bundle for Harbor that would configure everything out of the box.
Yay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say thumbs up, Barrett.
And Chris just pinged me to remind me that we forgot to add Duffle on the agenda for today. So I'm going to take that one because that was my item to add to the agenda, and I completely forgot to do that. So Duffle originally began as our reference implementation that was sort of co-contributed to by Pivotal, by Microsoft, by Docker, and then by Datadog as a little bit later. Then we broke Duffle into CNAB-GO, the reference library, and Duffle, which is basically a CLI wrapper around the library. And at this point, we've been doing a bad job of maintaining it. From Microsoft's perspective, we've gotten so focused on Porter that that's become our main focus of development. And I want to kind of, first of all, officially say it's probably gonna be that way for us for a while. We just don't have enough resources to manage 2 CLIs. And then second, bring up the question of, okay, so what do we want to do with Duffle going forward now that we've got a solid spec? And really the bulk of the important meaty code is in CNAB-GO and is very well maintained there. Go ahead, Radu.
That's what I was trying to point out, that at some point last year, or even earlier than that, we've pulled out most packages from Duffle into a shared library called CNAB-GO. So every spec change and every update first had to go into CNAB-GO, which meant every other tool had access to it, like claims and everything else since it's part of CNAB-GO. Duffle itself kind of lost part of its significance as a standalone tool.
Yeah, and I think as far as reference implementation goes, the having a reference library has proven more valuable because everybody just grabs it, drops it in, and that's Porter uses it. I think Docker uses it. I know at least part of it is used in Datadog's implementation as well. So if that's the case, then Duffle, I think, takes its, so we had 2 goals for Duffle originally, right? It was to get a reference implementation for the 1.0 spec, and then to have a particular tool that people can PR against to show off, hey, if we added this particular feature to the spec, this is how it would work in reality. It does seem to me that second purpose could still be achieved with Duffle as it is today. But without requiring sort of active ongoing development to make it into a better and better tool when we have, Dogger Apps, Porter, all these other tools that are essentially providing more user-friendly interfaces on the same set of behavior.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, I think all the useful code is in CNAB-GO. We definitely use that at Docker. And then the other thing is for Duffle itself, if you're going to be using it as a test harness, you're going to need to update it. So, if you need to do so, please put up a PR and we'll review it to make sure that we keep it relatively up to date. But otherwise, I think you're right. I think CNAB-GO is where the interesting stuff is.
All right, so I think the only action item on that, if we're all kind of generally, and we can even use this as a sort of pseudo voting kind of thing, we need to open a PR that basically clarifies at the top of the README for Duffle what our perspective is on that. and what it's there for. And then we can kind of merge that and let it be what it is. Okay, anything else on that one? All right, we just hit 10:30, which I think is now the official ending time for this meeting. We've gone back and forth between an hour and a half hour. So if there's nothing else, we'll make sure we add on the agenda for next week, follow up. Oh, it's dinner time for the cat, isn't it?
She got her dinner already. This is just, I'm bored.
Oh, so for next week, we'll revisit the 3 sections of the specification. Hopefully we will be at or past the voting stage for the security spec by then. We will follow up on the claims PR on CNAB-GO as well next time. Anything else right now you want to add to the agenda?
No, just that next week specifically, we have the off-week meeting that is registry and security. And if you're interested in any of that, please join.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that last week. I had intended to go. Okay. Yeah, so the reminder is next week, same time, same Zoom channel as security and registry. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll reconvene here and pick up where we're leaving off today. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you again next week or the week after. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.